What I'm going to do today is replace this mainframe on my little MCPX. It's been through the wars, but I keep breaking off the side canopy holders, and plus I want to redo the tail boom. I did the extended version, but I want to make it a little neater. Got the blades off, landing gear off. Always good to have a little tray to put your parts in. Now, this is the new mainframe, and it'll come with 2 new screws for the control board and some washers. So we'll make sure we use those later. Okay, so I'm gonna remove the main gear, just pry it off with the screwdriver right in there. Undo these 2 top links, and then the main shaft and blade grips will come out. Then we'll take this off and disconnect the servos, front, side, and rear. And then that should be about it. We should be able to pull that right off. Almost forgot. You have to get in here and undo that little guy. Right in here. Can you see that? Shaft retainer. So it's just a Phillips head, so it's easy. I just forgot about it. Okay, so I've got the swash plate off. I've removed all the dog bones, and the main shaft is out. And one thing on the main shaft, this little retainer, you have to be careful when you put that screw back in to make sure it goes in the right hole on the main shaft. If you don't, you'll splinter that main shaft, and then you'll be screwed. So to take off the control board, there's just 2 screws here. It's real simple. There's one there and one there, and no big deal. And you can try and do it without unplugging all the servos, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do it. I'm going to have to unplug them. You can put silicone caulk back over the plugs to hold them together. That's what I did before. Alright. You do want to be careful. Don't get your screws mixed up. The ones in the control board are actually a little bit longer than the ones that go in the servo. It's hard to tell. They're just a tad longer. Not sure if it makes a difference, but I'm keeping mine separate. Next thing is pop the motor out. Just 2 screws, one there, and push it out. And again, motor screws are different. They're machine screws, so hard to get mixed up. Okay, so the motor's out, and just a caution, never pull on the wires to get it out. Use a screwdriver to get underneath it and push it out like that. Alright. There's also 2 bearings, main shaft bearings, one on the top, one on the bottom. You're going to want to pry those out. They should come out pretty easily. Just get a thin screwdriver and wiggle them out a little bit. Not too much pressure on that inner race though. They'll pop right out. There we go. Simple. Now I had this tail boom CA'd in here, so you have to be real careful, because you know a carbon fiber rod will splinter if you squeeze it too hard. So just be careful and kind of twist it a little bit and try and break that CA glue loose. And then once it starts getting loose, and there we go, I got it loose now. That was pretty easy. I was worried. And just keep twisting it in the same direction. Don't go clockwise and counterclockwise. Keep spinning in the same direction, otherwise you'll fray that end of that carbon fiber. I'm going to replace this anyway, but I still want to show you just to be careful with it, and take your time and don't squeeze it too much or you'll splinter the ends again. There we go. So that's it. One of the other reasons I wanted to take this all apart was to clean up this wiring. I did a really crappy job and used some brush-on insulation. So there's way too much there. So I'm going to cut a new tail boom, 144 millimeters long, and put on, reinstall this, and then clean this wire up, and then shrink wrap the whole thing to make it nice and neat. Well, I have to admit, I wasn't really prepared for this, because I forgot that I had CA'd this tail boom into the tail rotor. So I've torn my little tail fin pretty badly. I'm going to have to find some plastic and make one. In the meantime, I'm struggling with getting this out. Well, I pretty much destroyed my tail rotor housing. I had to split it, and now I'm going to clean it up, and hopefully I can still salvage it. Alright, one of the things you'll notice before I forget, when you take the motor out of your tail rotor, one of the things you'll notice when you go to put it back in, when you put the motor in, the wires go through this thin one. What happens is the motor butts up against this flange, and if you put it in any of the other ones, they'll pinch the wires. Okay, if you put it through this one, the wires won't get pinched. There, it's all the way flush now. So the wires will get pinched if you put it anywhere but right there. Alright? Well, okay, I've soldered on new wires to my tail rotor assembly, green and red. And I put my servos back on, so I discovered that you better keep track because they're all the same. Make sure you mark them. I didn't unplug mine, I just left them plugged in. And then put them back in the spot where I thought they went, and ended up with the right servo on the left side. And anyway, so I switched them back around, so everything's good now. So here's where I'm shaking out so far. I've got everything back together, all the plugs in the right spot, the servo's back in their right spot. Got my tail boom cut, and the wires soldered and plugged right in here. Going to use 2 pieces of shrink wrap to come all the way back to the end, and then mount my screwed up tail rotor here, and I get it glued back together. As soon as I figure out the distance, I'll cut this wire and solder it to the motor. Well, here it is, finally done. I apologize for not filming the entire sequence, but it seemed really boring. Plus, I didn't exactly know what I was doing. It would have been embarrassing if it would have screwed up. But anyway, here's the little wiring harness. It goes into the back. Got 144 millimeters shrink wrapped back to the tail. There's my solution to the stripped tail. And that's pretty much it. It flies okay. It's a little shaky. I still have to figure out what to do with this, but we'll work on that tomorrow. For now, I'm pretty happy. It flies okay. Much better than it did before.